so today is the big day. This is going to be the start of the Sourwood Honey pull. I have quite a bit to do today. It's bright and early. I don't know what time it is. I think it's about 7 o'clock in the morning. The kids are about to go to child care. Michelle's going to work, and I'm going to rob the bees. So I got a bunch of stuff to get together so I can get down there. Today is going to be hopefully a pretty simple day of work. I have to get everything set up to pull the honey, and to pull the splits. So today what I'm planning on doing, we're going to go down there. I'm going to take all the honey supers off, figure out where all the honey is, kind of estimate how much honey I'm going to get. I'm going to, after I get the honey supers pulled off, if there's any supers with brood, we're going to make sure, we're going to try to anyway, make sure our queen is down in the bottom of the box, or the bottom deep. We're going to put a queen excluder on, put that brood above that. Then we're going to put our skateboards on, and then all of our honey above that. So we're going to do that work today to make our lives easier on Wednesday. So today's Monday morning. Wednesday morning, I'm going to go back down there, or I say down there, it's actually up there. I'm going to go back up to Wilkes County. We are going to, should be able to just pull all the honey supers off, put those in the truck, stack them and strap them down. I will flip a lid upside down and put one underneath all the supers and then one on top. Get all those strapped down and bring those home. Once all that's done, I should be able to, as long as the queen is in the bottom, I should be able to basically just pull those medium boxes that should be full of bees, because remember, we're going to run all those supers of bees down into that medium and that deep. Should be able to pull that medium full of bees and brood off above the queen excluder, put it on the bottom, slap a top on it, and I should be able to bring it home as a nice medium split. And then after I get done robbing the honey, I should have plenty of empty mediums to stack on top, and we'll start feeding those and get those ready. I've got queen cells out in the other yard. I haven't checked to see how many were successfully capped, but the queen cells look really good about 2 or 3 days after I grafted. So got to check that as well. So it's going to be a busy day. I'm going to let y'all tag along. Alright, so I think I've got about everything I need. Got me a cooler with some water, a couple Cokes in it. I think I've got 12 skateboards there. I've only got like 11 or 12 hives that I'm going to be robbing today. I think I took one extra. Got my tote feeder here. Got a bucket of really thick syrup back there. 2 buckets of water. We're going to thin that down. Just give them some really light syrup just to keep them working and stimulated and activated, and hopefully keep them from robbing while this honey's being pulled off, or the skateboards are on. Got our queen excluders there, so we are just about ready to go. Well, I managed to get them fed without getting tromped on and run over, and I didn't get stung. See if I can get these girls to come out. They're on the ground. I really need to take care of them. Just have not had the time. I tried to run a piece of wire up through there, but that didn't work. There they are. Alright, we made it. Got a little bee working this wildflower. I've never seen this wildflower before. Not really sure what it is. Got a little bee on it. Here's our hives. Not quite as many bees as I'm used to seeing on the fronts. Of course, it is early in the morning. They're probably out working. Trying to smell, see if I can smell any honey. But I've also learned, you know, that you don't judge a hive by its entrance. So hopefully we hadn't had a lot of swarms. Hopefully they're up there producing some honey, or at least drying it out. Our fence is still working. We will turn that off because I don't want to get electrocuted. Must be getting dry. Got a few trying to get in there and rob a little bit, it looks like. Massive bee beard there. I don't know, we'll check them out and see. This right here was our best honey producer in the spring, and when I came down here last time they weren't really doing much, so I took most of their supers off, just left them an empty on top there. We're going to start cracking them open. Got to get them unstrapped, got to get my smoker lit, get everything unloaded. Be back with you in a second. Alright, this one was a disappointment last time. We'll see what it's doing this time. I don't have high hopes. I'm hoping I'm wrong. So whenever I left last time, this hive had no honey. This was completely empty. Looks like they have done a little bit, which is, you know, for a hive that hadn't done anything, that's kind of a good thing. So hopefully the ones that were making honey really made a bunch. So this hive here, I mean, I'm gonna get a couple frames. This hive is about half capped. The one beside of it is the same. Almost all on this side. So this frame here, I've got this one. These two are about the same. I'll probably end up getting about 4 or 5 frames off of this hive. Not really good to be my best producer, but I don't know what happened to them. I mean, they could have swarmed. They could have went queenless and had to requeen. I'm not really sure, but this hive had, you know, it had 4 or 5 supers on it in the spring, and now they don't really have anything, so. And you can see, I mean, there's really not even a lot of bees in this top super. What I want to check for now is just to see if I can find any brood up here in this top super. See if I can adjust the camera there. Let's see what they've got in here. Not really any brood, they've just started backfilling that frame. Let's see, just sit that there. Same thing here, as the brood's been hatching out, they've been backfilling. Well, we won't get to make a split off of this one. All right, we'll go work on the rest of them. Now this next one over is what I like to see. So on this one, I brought a frame up to the top box. They ended up capping it. They tried to work some on the sides, but they didn't quite finish it. Over here, see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we did 7 frames in the 8 frame, spaced them out. And I don't know if you can see it really good, but they are really capped well. The frames are good and fat. And I'll pull 1 or 2 of them out and let you look at it. So that's what we want, solid sourwood, all the way to the outside. So there's our outside frames, completely capped. So most of these boxes came down here. Some of them had a super on them, some of them didn't. I've got most of them marked, and I'll be able to tell based off the fresh white cappings which ones are sourwood and which ones are not. And so most of these hives, I know for a fact that super is completely sourwood, because none of them really came down here with more than 1 super, except for like this hive that had a super on the bottom, then a deep, and then the super on top. So there's 1 super full and then an extra frame. So we'll get a couple frames off this one to the left, 1 extra one there, and there's 1 super. So I'm going to keep going. All right, so we got our first stand done here. Now my splitting plan has not really worked as planned. The bees have just really started backfilling these bottom supers, so I don't have any brood in them. I've tried to make supers in the past, I've tried to make splits in the past with honey, and it just doesn't work very good. It works a lot better if you have brood. So this first stand was a flop as far as making splits, which is fine. I'm not going to complain about it. They've really started backfilling these supers, and they're putting the sourwood honey in there. I'm not going to be that greedy and go down in there and take it. My original plan was to overwinter these bees with in singles. I may still do that. I may take some of these supers off and use that honey on my splits and nukes and stuff, and then that way I don't have to feed some of them as much. But that part was a flop. Now as far as the honey goes, few frames in there, few frames, maybe a half a super here, same thing right here in that top one. So between those 3 top ones, I probably have 1 super. That one's full, this one's full, so that's 1, 2, 3 supers. And then in this one, full, full, and full. So definitely had to make a mark up here. Sourwood, get my finger, sourwood 19 for 2019, 2 mediums full, 1 shallow full. We definitely want to keep that in mind. Now they're like I said, they're also backfilling this one with sourwood, but I can't really tell if the other honey that's in there, if it's spring or sourwood. It's probably a mix, so I'm not going to rob it, because you know, I take pride in what I do as far as making this sourwood honey, and I only want to produce the best. So there's a chance that that could have some spring mixed in with it, and I'm not going to run the risk of contaminating my sourwood. So I'm just going to take those 3 on the top there. So The splits so far have been a flop. What did we say? So there's 3, 4, 5, 6. So off of these 4 hives, we probably got 6 supers full. So that's not too bad. These medium supers, I kind of anticipate getting about 30 pounds off of them because they're 8 frame. Assuming about 4 pounds per frame. That smoker is choking me. So I'm assuming that I can get 30 as a conservative number. So that should be 30, 60, 90, 120. Then I estimate 25 pounds of honey off of these. So what I say, 30, 60, 90, 120. Plus those 3 will make 1, so that's 150. And then that should be 175. So off these 4 hives, I should get 175 pounds of finished sourwood honey. So that's not bad. Golly, that's better than I thought. Is that right? Let's see, 20, 30. No, not 20, 30. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 175. So, and then 175 divided by 4. You know, if it was 180, 80 and half would be 90, and that and half would be 45. So that'd be 45 pounds of sourwood honey per hive. And that, you know, honestly, this is probably the weakest stand, or it was. That one and this one is a lot stronger. So 45 pounds, that's not bad. You know, I had 11. I robbed all of these 11 hives. Well, I robbed 13 hives in the spring and got 500 pounds off of them. So, you know, that's as of right now, we're getting up close to 100 pounds of honey per hive per year. That's pretty good. So we'll not count our chickens before they hatch, but or should we say, we'll not count our supers before they're extracted, or our jars of honey before they're bottled. But we'll keep moving on. That's one of the things I'm wanting to look at, though, is you hear people talking about pounds of honey per year, per hive. You know, a hive making 100 pounds per year. You know, in our area, that's pretty good. So then you can kind of estimate, you know, your supply and demand. And that's what I'm doing. If I know I'm gonna be able to make 100 pounds per hive, how much honey can I sell? That kind of tells me how many hives I need to put into honey production, and then how many hives I can allocate for sale or producing my crop of bees for the next year. So, all right, let's get moving on this stand here. Well, I just finished this stand, and you see what that is. And over here, and all over here, robbing. And I tell you, you talk about eating your words, man. I said this stand was stronger, and it was, but it's not anymore. I don't really know what's happened. I'll get my phone out of here. This hive here has a queen. She has a little bit of brood in the deep. She has brood in the shallow. She has brood in the medium. So I put a queen excluder between them 2 supers. That one's empty. I left it on there. If there's anything left after they get done with their robbing frenzy here, then I guess I'll figure that out. This hive here is queenless. There's a little bit of honey in these 3 supers, and there's bees in there, but basically they're queenless. So all I'm going to be trying to do now is I put the escape board on. I'm hoping that the bees from these top supers will work their way down in here, get this deep and shallow kind of full, and I guess I'll either have to put a queen or queen cell in them. So I don't know what happened to them. These hives right along here, especially these 3, were some of my strongest ones when I brought them down. But they didn't do very good. So this box here, there's a little, I think, goodness, I can't even remember now. I don't think there's hardly anything in these top 2. There's a little bit of honey in this top one, and so I'm just gonna I just put the escape board on them to run all them down into a single. And this one here, they've got about a half a super here and a super there. So this first super, it's full, but it's all spring honey. Well, it may not be. Yeah, it is spring. See that 19? That's 2019. That means I put that super on there this spring. So that super there is probably a mix of spring and sourwood. I'm just going to leave it like it is. So out of this stand, I probably got probably two supers. If that don't get robbed out, which is I don't think that it will. I don't think they can get in there. They're just trying. It's pretty tight and it's propolized. They're trying to get in, but I don't think they can get in this box either. But anyway, I don't know. Probably two supers of sourwood honey is probably all I'm going to get there. So probably about 60 pounds on this stand. Man, that's kind of ate my words there, but I mean, that's the way it is. Now let me show you something. You know, earlier I said don't judge a hive by its entrance. This is something that I have noticed. Okay, I don't know if you can see all of those dead bees on the ground. And look over here in front of this one. There's more. Now look in front of this one that's queenless. They're piled up there. And this one here that's being robbed out, there's piles of bees in front of the entrances. Now over here, these hives did good, but I've still got piles of bees in front of every single box. Even this one here that was my best producer in the spring, just lots and lots. I mean, look at that. Just lots and lots of dead bees. So I don't really know what to make of that. I mean, it could be a variety of things. I'm way back out in the middle of nowhere. I'm out in the middle of the woods, probably a quarter to a half a mile from the road. There are people that own land around here. I'm sure there's people that come on this land when I'm not here. You know, there's a very good possibility that they could have come up here and sprayed them. I don't know. I mean, there's people that plant corn around here. I guess they could have got sprayed by something there. It could have been some type of hornets. I have killed some big hornets nests here. I have no clue, but that's just the way it is, I guess. So I got one more stand back here to check these three. That one was doing ridiculously well last time that I checked, and I think two of these were doing good and one of them was okay. So we'll see. That one there is a double deep. I bet that one's the one that ain't doing worth a crap. But we will see. I'm gonna check those real quick, and I don't know. This is I knew the Sourwood honey flow, where I said it earlier in the year. I said when I checked them, I didn't think they were going to do that good. I was estimating somewhere between 250 and 350 pounds if they finished what they were working on, but there's been a lot of reports that in some places the Sourwood honey has been doing really well. After checking this stand here, I thought, man, they are going to do pretty well, but now I'm kind of back in the boat where they're not probably going to do that good. So that's just the way it is. Sourwood's really hit and miss. I don't know if I've said this before, but you know, back in 2000, let's see, I think it would have been 2016, I made 200 pounds of sourwood honey off of 5 hives. In 2017, I made 200 pounds of sourwood honey off of 24 hives. Then in 2018, I believe I made 400 pounds of sourwood honey off of 11 hives. And now in 2019, I'm probably only going to make 250 to 350 pounds. I don't know, we'll count these off of 11 hives. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you know anything about pecan trees, but they talk about pecans, how you have a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. It's starting to seem like that's how the sourwood is, and that's primarily one of the reasons why I'm going to be looking for another place to put my bees for sourwood next year, because I do not want to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm hoping that by dividing my bees up, say 10 hives in one yard, 10 hives in the other, or 20 in one, 20 in the other, whatever I put into production next year based off my estimates of my honey demand, I want to be able to divide that up and put some in one location and then put some in another county in another location 30-40 miles away. And then hopefully hopefully both places do good, but hopefully if one does bad, the other does good, because right now all my eggs are in one basket. So I'm going to check these three, and then I'll give you the total counts, the estimates of what I think I'm going to get. And then after I rob them, and extract it and bottle it, I'll eventually make another video and we'll let you know the exact numbers. All right, so I got them all done. This was our last rack here. This first hive, it's got the first super is full. There's a little, or it's pretty much full, and then that super there, the one on top, has a little bit of honey in the top. I'm estimating one super off of that one between the two combined. The middle one, same thing. The first super is almost full. The top one has a little bit, so between the two I'll probably get one. The one in the back there has a full medium on the bottom, a full shallow, and then the top one is probably about half full. So off of this last rack, you can pretty much say 30, 60, 90 pounds, and then the shallow is 25, then probably half a medium is 15, so 40, so 30, 60, 90, so about 130 pounds there. So 130 pounds, and then on this one we went 175, so that's 305, and then over here we're estimating about 60 pounds, so that would be 365 pounds of sourwood honey. So just roughly doing the math, I mean 365, there's 11 hives. I mean, you're looking at less than 36 pounds per hive. That's not really that good. Of course, last year I made 400 pounds off of 11 hives, so that's about 40. So I mean, I guess we're close. It's a mediocre year. I don't really know what happened to my bees. These are probably some of the weakest hives coming out of sourwood that I've ever had. It's hard telling. It could be mites. These hives have not been treated because they were in the spring honey flow. They went straight from the spring honey flow to the sourwood honey flow. So I've not really been able to treat them. I have not really been able to check them for mites because they've been 2 hours away. So it could be that. I really hate it when people accuse people of spraying their bees. And I know I mentioned that earlier. The bees could have got into something, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was somebody sprayed their bees. Man, that's the cheap way out. That's the easy way out. I don't know. I don't know what happened to them. I just know I got a bunch of dead bees in front of the hives. I have had problems down here before with entire hives, like strong hives, just be completely annihilated, come in and every bee in front of them be dead. And I don't know if it's yellow jackets or hornets that get in them. It could be skunks. I have an electric fence around, but that's not going to stop the skunks from coming through. It could be skunks, but generally skunks, you'll see a lot of dead grass and dirt in front of the hive, where they're laying down there on the bees, scratching the ground and scratching the front of the hive, and then grabbing the bees that way. And I don't really see that. And there's a lot of dead bees there. So I mean, if they were eating the bees, why would there be a bunch of dead bees? So not really sure what's going on, but that's beekeeping. That's the way it is. It's never 100%. That's why sourwood honey is expensive. That's why sourwood honey is rare. That's why there is more sourwood honey sold than is produced every single year. I have people all the time asking me if my spring honey is sourwood. I'm like, no. There was a lady on Facebook Marketplace, June, like at the beginning of June, sourwood trees hadn't even started blooming yet, and she was selling fresh mountain sourwood honey, and the sourwood trees hadn't even started blooming. And I had some people comment on when I posted something about it on one of the forums. They said, oh well, there's microclimates and this. No, we're in zone 7. everybody, you know, all the sourwood trees are kind of all in zone 7. There's a couple weeks here and there, but you can't have mountain sourwood honey in the beginning of June when the Piedmont sourwood trees aren't even blooming. I don't buy the microclimate junk. I mean, it's basic, I guess, bee physics and bee science. It takes time. You know, the trees may bloom a week or two early, but it takes time for the bees to go out there and get the honey, put it in the combs. So anyway, sourwood honey is very rare. It's hard to get. These bees here, probably, I know I mentioned on my Facebook page, so the way this worked, I robbed these bees at my house, and after I got done robbing them there, I brought them down here. Now it takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to load them, an hour and a half to 2 hours to get here, an hour and a half to 2 hours to unload them, and an hour and a half to 2 hours to get back home. I start about 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. I get home about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. That's the way it works. I stripped all my bees honey off in the spring, and then when I brought these bees down here, I brought the extracted super. So I had I've got a headlamp that's red, and at midnight I put all the supers back on these hives in the middle of the night at midnight. So after I got them down here, smoked the absolute crap out of them, and just started popping tops and throwing supers on in the middle of the night. So, you know, I know this is sourwood honey because the bees are down here about a week before it starts blooming, and most of the small trees have a few bells on the end of their tassels, but for the most part, the sourwood is just now finishing up, or has finished up within the last week. Those there they're completely finished. No bells on them. We go over here, we got another one. These are just some of the smaller ones that I can actually get a video of. You'll be able to see on this one, it's got a few bells left. And there are some bees up there working them, but they don't have much. I don't know if you'll be able to, yeah, I see some bees in the footage, so you might be able to see them. But they are pretty much done. And here we are robbing the honey off. So, and the bees, as you saw over there, are robbing each other. So it tells you we're back into a dearth. So that sourwood honey flows over. But that's it. We've got them set up. My guess, 365 pounds. So we'll see after I extract them. We'll see how close I am on that. I've got a little bit of sugar water and a tote feeder in the back of my truck. I'm gonna take it down the hill, and I'm gonna set all that out. So these bees, hopefully that'll keep them occupied and keep them stimulated. And since I'm taking this honey off, maybe they can continue back filling their supers and start putting some honey in their hive bodies, because it is now the end of July, and this is when beekeeping really takes off. So most people rob their bees in June or July, and they don't really mess with them again until September, October. That's a bad idea. This is when your winter preparations start, July. You got to start now. So when we come back to rob this honey off, we will be doing our first treatments for mites, and we're going to continue to feed. So we're going to start treating everything now, and then hopefully by hopefully by September, you know, mid-September, we'll be just about done with our feeding. We'll have all our treatments done, and our bees will be ready to hopefully cruise right on through the winter. And one other thing that I was going to mention, this hive here produced 2 supers of sourwood, or a full super, a shallow, and a half of a medium. This will definitely be one that we're going to mark. You saw me mark the, oh, I ain't got my head. You saw me mark the other one. We're definitely going to be marking this one. If these queens can make it through the winter, they are going to be some of our prime bees, queens that we're going to be checking out for breeders. So that's another thing you need to be doing, is keep records of your honey, because next year I'm going to need to know in the spring not only which bees made it through the winter, I need to know which bees produce honey. So I'm going to be going around to these hives here in just a little bit kind of marking which ones produce sourwood. I'm gonna be marking on their on the boxes or on the lids, you know, little notes about how much they produce, so then I can look back at that next spring whenever I'm starting to produce queens, and I can make sure that not only am I producing queens from hives that overwintered well, but I'm also going to produce queens from hives that produced honey. So it's kind of a two-stage test. You have to make it through the winter, but you also have to produce honey. And then all of these hives here, you know, they could have swarmed, they could have requeened, I don't know. But all of these hives here, just about, except for a couple, are hives that made it through last winter. So these were the hives that made it, some of my strongest ones that made it through, that I put into honey production. So these are definitely the ones that I'm going to keep an eye on. Y'all have a good one.